There is a place that exists at the edge of the evening, where the light turns golden and the air carries something ancient and sweet, and tonight you are already there. You are standing at the beginning of a long path and the world ahead of you is soft. Everything is slow here, everything is safe. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, nothing waiting for you except the gentle unfolding of this quiet evening. You are going to walk slowly and without urgency through fields of lavender that stretch as far as your eyes can follow beneath a sky that is beginning its long, tender conversation with the setting sun. The air is warm, the ground beneath your feet is steady. And as you begin to move forward, you can already feel something in your chest begin to loosen, some small, tightly held thing beginning to soften and let go. This is your walk, this is your evening, and nothing here will rush you. Take a breath now, let it come slowly, drawing in the very first suggestion of lavender on the air, faint and clean and so deeply familiar it feels like a memory you forgot you had. Let it fill you, and then let it go easily without effort, the way the evening itself releases the last heat of the afternoon sun. You are here, you are safe, and the path is waiting. The ground beneath your feet is a pale, dusty earth, sun-warmed and fine, the kind of soil that holds the heat of the day long after the shadows have begun to stretch. You can feel it through the soles of your shoes, that stored warmth rising up gently, the earth releasing what it has gathered all afternoon in a slow, generous exhale. The path is narrow here at the beginning, just wide enough for one person walking unhurriedly, and it winds ahead of you through low grass that is still faintly green at the edges of the track, though it has begun to take on the amber tones of late summer, the kind of gold that appears only in the last weeks before the season changes. On either side of the path, the land opens. It begins gently with low rolling hills just ahead, their shapes rounded and unhurried, as though the earth here has had a very long time to settle into its most comfortable form. The hills are covered in something low and silver green, the leaves of lavender plants that have not yet come into full bloom in this nearer section, still tight with the quiet promise of what they will become, their silvery stems catching the angle. Evening light and turning it into something close to shimmer. But further on, just past where the nearest hill begins its gentle rise, you can already see the color. A soft haze of purple, the kind that appears almost like something between color and light, something your eye wants to call blue but your heart recognizes as violet, lying across the hillside in long, patient rows. The sight of it makes something in you go still in the best possible way, the kind of stillness that comes not from emptiness but from arrival, from the sensation of having come to the right place at exactly the right time. You begin to walk. Your pace is slow from the very first step, unhurried, the kind of walking that is almost not walking at all but rather a gentle moving through the world, a passage that leaves no urgency in the air. Your arms hang softly at your sides. Your shoulders have already begun to drop as though the warmth of this place has simply loosened whatever was holding them up toward your ears all day. You breathe in and the air is warm and faintly fragrant, and you breathe out and the path unspools ahead of you in the golden light. The sky above is extraordinary. It is that particular shade of the late afternoon that has no single name, a blue that has begun to warm toward amber at its lowest edges, near the horizon where the sun is still some distance from setting but has clearly begun its long, ceremonial descent. The light it throws is not the bright white light of midday but something richer, something with depth and weight to it, a light that makes every surface it touches seem to glow from within. The lavender on the hillside ahead of you catches this light along the tops of its flower spikes, each tiny blossom lit from the side so that the whole field seems to pulse with a soft, living radiance. You take another step and another. The path curves gently to the right, following the natural contour of the land, and as you turn with it, the full extent of the lavender fields comes slowly into view. They are vast. That is the first word that comes to you, and it settles in your mind with a quiet weight. Vast. Row after row after row of lavender plants, each one precisely placed but somehow appearing entirely natural, as though this is simply what this land has always wanted to grow, as though the earth here decided long ago that purple was its color, and has been keeping this agreement faithfully. Since the rows run parallel to the slope of the land, curving slightly to follow the hills, and where the hillside turns, the rows turn with it, so that the whole field has this flowing quality, like something breathing, like something that exists in conversation with the shape of the earth beneath it. The scent reaches you now in a wave that is not sharp or sudden but gradual, building as you walk, the way a piece of music builds, adding depth and richness layer by layer until you're surrounded by it. Lavender, yes, that is the primary note, that clean herbal sweetness that seems to exist at the exact intersection of the senses, something you smell and also somehow feel, a fragrance that seems to settle in the chest and slow the heartbeat by half a measure. But beneath the lavender there are other things, the warm dry scent of sun-baked earth, the faint green sharpness of cut stems somewhere in the distance, the barely there sweetness of something floral mixed in among the rows, a small wildflower perhaps, growing where it chose and not where it was planted. You breathe it all in slowly, filling your lungs without effort, your body doing this naturally and gratefully, the way it always breathes when given air this clean, this warm, this free of everything that usually crowds the lungs in the ordinary world. The path begins to rise gently now as it approaches the first proper hill. The incline is so slight you might not notice it except for the way the muscles in your legs engage just fractionally more, a soft reminder that you are moving through real landscape, real earth, real contour and rise and fall. The lavender plants here are close to the path's edge, and as you pass, the outermost of the flower spikes brush gently against your hand, the lightest possible contact, like the world reaching out just briefly to confirm that you are really here, that this is real, that the softness and warmth around you is not imagined. The touch of the lavender against your fingers is impossibly soft. The individual florets are tiny, clustered along their stems in the way that always seems both orderly and abundant, like a sentence made entirely of the best words. You let your hand trail along the tops of the row as you walk, feeling each plant in turn, the slight resistance and then the springback, the petal softness, the faint release of scent where your passage disturbs the flowers just enough to open them. Little further. Above you a bird calls once from somewhere in the golden air, a single clear note that rises and then fades, absorbed by the warmth of the evening before it can travel very far. You watch the sky for a moment, tilting your face upward, and the sun touches your cheeks with a warmth that is still real but no longer fierce, the afternoon heat having given way to something gentler, something that feels more like kindness than intensity. You reach the top of the first gentle rise, and from here the view opens in a way that makes you stop, quite naturally without deciding to stop. It simply happens. Your feet slow and then still, and you stand on the crest of this small hill and look out at what is ahead of you, and the sight of it is enough to make you forget, briefly and beautifully, that there is any other world than this one. The lavender fields spread out before you in every direction that matters, rolling away across the countryside in waves of purple and silver and gold, the colors shifting as the evening light moves across them from the west, every row alive with that gentle movement that comes from the warm evening breeze, a collective swaying that makes the whole landscape seem to breathe. In the middle distance, the land dips into a wide, shallow valley before rising again to another set of hills, and those hills too are covered in lavender, a deeper purple from this distance, the color intensified by the slight atmospheric haze that has begun to gather in the lower parts of the landscape as the evening comes on. Far away, just at the edge of the valley where the land begins its next rise, you can see a farmhouse. It is small from here, just a shape in the landscape, pale stone walls and a terracotta roof that glows warmly in the angled light, surrounded by the dark vertical shapes of cypress trees standing like quiet sentinels. There is a light in one of the windows, just barely visible from this distance, warm and amber, the kind of light that suggests a kitchen, a lamp burning on a table, the smell of something cooking. The sight of it fills you with a feeling you might call longing, except that it is softer than longing and warmer, something closer to the feeling of knowing that warmth exists, that somewhere in the world there are always lights on, always a home, always a table set with quiet and safety and rest. You look at the farmhouse for a long moment, and then you look back at the path which continues down the hill ahead of you, winding through the lavender toward the valley floor. The evening is still with you, the scent is still with you, and your feet are ready to carry you forward. You begin to descend. The path down the hill moves through the heart of the lavender fields now, the plants close on both sides, their rows stretching away from you in both directions as far as you can see. This is the deepest part of the lavender, the oldest planting perhaps, the stems here thick and woody at their bases, the plants themselves taller than the ones near the top of the hill, reaching toward your waist on either side, creating the sensation of moving through a softly fragrant corridor, a living passageway constructed by the patience of many growing seasons. The colors here are extraordinary in the evening light. The lavender is not one purple but many. The deep blue violet of the shadowed lower stems, the brighter, cleaner violet of the mid-flower, the pale silvery lavender of the very tips of the spikes where they catch the direct light of the descending sun and are transformed briefly into something closer to silver than purple, a shimmer that moves across the field in waves as the breeze passes through. And everywhere the gold of the light itself, falling at that long angle that belongs only to the late afternoon, painting stripes of warmth across the rows and the path and the pale earth between the plants. You walk slowly through it and the breeze moves with you, or perhaps just around you, a warm and constant presence that carries the scent in shifting concentrations, now stronger, now softer, now carrying that additional note of dry grass and warm stone that speaks of old farmland, of land that has been tended for generations by people who understood that the most valuable things are often the slowest to grow. Your breathing has grown slower without your noticing it. This happens sometimes in places like this, the body simply adjusting to a rhythm that belongs to the landscape, borrowing the pace of the lavender swaying, the pace of the light moving, the pace of an evening that is in absolutely no hurry to become night. You breathe in, the lavender fills you. You breathe out, the path receives your slow steps with quiet patience. There is a sound now that you have been hearing for some time without quite registering it, the way sounds become part of a landscape and stop, being individual things and become instead the texture of the air itself. But now you give it your attention and you hear bees. Dozens of them, perhaps more, moving through the lavender rows in that busy and purposeful way that bees have, their wings creating that low, continuous hum that is one of the most ancient and comfortable sounds a human being can hear. A sound so deeply embedded in the memory of being outdoors in summer that it communicates safety and abundance and the simple fact that the world is working as it should. They do not come close to you. They are busy with their own work among the flowers, but their sound surrounds you as you walk, a gentle chorus that underlies everything else, a steady vibration in the warm air. Below the bees, beneath their hum, there are crickets beginning. The first one tentative, testing the early evening air, then another a little further away, then a third, and by the time you have taken 20 more steps down the hill, there is a soft collective pulse beginning to build in the grass at the edges of the path, a sound that belongs to dusk the way birdsong belongs to morning, the crickets beginning their evening ceremony with the same unhurried confidence they bring to it every night of the summer. The path levels out now as you reach the valley floor, and the lavender plants seem to grow even taller here where the land is flat and the drainage is good, the plants reaching above your waist on either side, their flower spikes nodding gently in the breeze like hundreds of small, patient listeners. You walk between them and the scent is very strong now, rich and clean and deep, and you let your hands move on either side of you, trailing through the flowers, your palms collecting the oils of the petals, and when you lift your hands to your face a few steps later, the scent that comes from them is the concentrated essence of this entire landscape, lavender and warmth, and the dry sweetness of a summer evening in full, unhurried bloom. The farmhouse is closer now, perhaps a 15-minute walk along the valley floor, and you can see more detail. The thick pale stone of the walls, the wooden shutters painted a faded blue that has weathered to something gentler than any fresh paint could achieve. The small garden to the side where something grows in raised beds, vegetables perhaps, or herbs. The orderly rows just visible above the low stone wall that surrounds the property. Beside the farmhouse, an old olive tree stands with that particular posture of extreme age and absolute comfort, its trunk twisted into shapes that took centuries to arrive at, its silver-green leaves catching the evening light and throwing it back in small, cool flashes. You are not going to the farmhouse, not yet. The path curves before it reaches the property, turning to the east along the valley floor and then beginning a gentle rise toward a stone pathway you can see ahead, old flat stones set into the earth, worn smooth by many years of passage, bordered on both sides by lavender that has been allowed to grow right up to the stone's edge. The plants overhanging the path in places so that your passage will brush them aside and release their scent in small, repeated gifts. You walk toward the stone path and your footsteps change as you reach the first flat stone. A softer sound now, more solid, the dust path giving way to this ancient paving that feels under your feet like a promise of permanence, like the assurance that this valley has been walked before and will be walked again, that you are part of something ongoing and unhurried and good. The stone path is beautiful in the way that things are beautiful when they have been worn to their essential shape by time and use. The individual stones are large and irregular, fitted together not by design, but by the patient work of whoever laid them, finding the pieces that belong together, and placing them with the quiet confidence of someone who trusted that the whole would resolve if the individual decisions were made carefully. The surfaces are smooth underfoot, the higher ridges long since worn down by boots and shoes and perhaps bare feet on summer evenings, the stone itself pale gray with suggestions of ochre and rose where the minerals within it catch the low light. Between the stones, small plants have taken up residence, time mostly low and spreading, its leaves so small and fine that the whole plant has a furred appearance, and when you walk close to the edge of the path where the thyme grows thickest, the scent rises up beneath the lavender, herbal and clean and sharp, adding another layer to the air around you. And there are other things too, tiny yellow flowers on stems so fine they are almost invisible, growing straight up between the stones, with the stubborn cheerfulness of plants that have found exactly the right amount of sun and water and will not waste a moment of it. The lavender on either side of this stone path is a different variety from the fields you walked through, or perhaps just older, the plants more established, some of them growing into the path itself so that you must push gently through them in places, their flower spikes releasing small showers of petal as they spring back behind you. The scent of this passage is extraordinary. You are moving through a corridor of living fragrance, and each step releases more, so that you leave behind you a brief intensification of the air, a small, fragrant wake. The sky above the stone path is framed on both sides by the tops of the lavender and further back by the shapes of the hills, and within that frame it is doing something spectacular now. The sun has descended far enough that its light has taken on that deep amber quality that belongs to the last hour before sunset, the quality that painters chase and photographers wake early for, and everyone who has ever stood in a field at evening and looked at the sky has carried with them forever after as a kind of inner standard, a memory of what the world can look like when the angle of the light is exactly right. The blue of the upper sky is deepening, pulling toward a shade that is somewhere between the blue of midday and the first suggestion of indigo, and along the horizon to the west, the colors have already begun their evening ceremony. Amber, then gold, then a band of pale rose that rises up from the western hills to meet the deepening blue above. You stop walking for a moment, just stop in the middle of the stone path surrounded by lavender under that sky. You look at the colors and let them fill your vision without thinking about them, without naming them or placing them in memory, just receiving them the way the earth receives rain, openly and completely. And for this moment, the evening is simply what it is. The colors are simply what they are. And you are simply here, standing in the middle of all of it, breathing slowly, held by the warmth of the air and the scent of 1,000 lavender plants and the ancient, patient stones beneath your feet. Then you breathe out and you walk on. The stone path begins to curve around the lower edge of a gentle rise, and as it does, a wooden fence comes into view on your right, old and worn, its rails faded silver gray by years of weather, the posts listing slightly in the soft earth, some of them wrapped at their bases by the lavender that has grown up around them, so that they appear to be wearing small purple skirts, held upright partly by the fence wire that still runs between them and partly by the embrace of the plants. The fence separates the lavender field from a strip of rougher land beyond it, where old grass grows long and seed-headed, and where several olive trees stand at intervals, their shapes irregular and deeply familiar, the kind of trees that seem to belong to every warm landscape simultaneously, as though they preceded the landscape itself and simply waited for the right earth and light to arrive. One of the olive trees grows very close to the fence, close enough that one of its lower branches has grown through the fence wire over the years, threading itself between the strands with the gradual, unstoppable patience of a living thing that does not understand obstacles, only growth. The branch is thick now, the fence wire embedded in it slightly, both the tree and the fence accommodating each other, an arrangement that seems less like a problem and more like a relationship, the long, slow negotiation between the planted and the grown, between the human-made and the made by time. You pause near this fence, near this tree, and you look at the olive leaves above you, each one a narrow ellipse of silver green, the undersides paler than the tops, so that when the breeze moves through the tree, the whole canopy flickers between two tones. A shimmer that is nothing like the shimmer of water and nothing like the shimmer of metallic things, but entirely its own phenomenon, the shimmer of olive leaves in warm evening air. Which is one of the most soothing sights in the world, and has been making people want to sit down in the shade and rest since the very first olive trees were planted. You rest your hand against the fence rail for a moment. The wood is warm from the sun, smooth in most places, rough where the weather has lifted the grain a little at the edges. It feels solid and real beneath your palm, connected to the earth through its posts, rooted the way the olive tree is rooted, part of this landscape in a way that speaks of belonging and continuity. Then you lift your hand and you keep walking. The path curves further now, following the contour of the land, and as it does you begin to climb again, gently, the slope so gradual it barely registers in your legs, just. That subtle engagement of muscle that reminds you of the earth's actual shape beneath you, its rises and falls, its long rhythms that have nothing to do with human time and everything to do with the much slower and more patient work of geology and weather and 10,000 years of root systems breaking stone into soil. On your left now, the lavender fields continue their endless reach, but you can see that further up the hill ahead, the planting changes, the lavender giving way in patches to what looks from here like rough hillside scrub, the kind of low aromatic growth that takes over where the cultivated rose end, rosemary and thyme and broom, lower and less organized than the lavender, but carrying its own wild beauty, its own way of being in the world. The colors there are gray-green and silver and occasional yellow, where the broom has held some late flowers into this part of the season. The air is beginning to change as you climb. It is not cooler yet, not quite, the warmth of the day still held by the earth and the stone and the thousands of plants around you that release their stored heat slowly into the evening. But there is something different about it, something that suggests the beginning of the transition, the first very subtle shift from afternoon warmth toward evening coolness. A freshness entering the air from the direction of the hills to the east, where the sky has already moved further toward the deepening blue of pre-twilight. You are aware as you walk of your own body, not with anxiety, not with the analytical attention that you might pay to it in other contexts, but with simple, comfortable awareness. You can feel your feet inside your shoes, the pressure and release of each step on the warm stone path. You can feel the easy swing of your arms, unhurried, matching the pace of your walking. You can feel your chest rising and falling with each breath, the ribs expanding slightly on the inhale, settling back on the exhale, the whole mechanism so automatic and so perfectly designed that you never need to think about it, your body breathing you the way the valley breathes the evening air, naturally and continuously and well. Your shoulders are relaxed, genuinely relaxed, not the kind of relax you have to remind yourself to do, not the deliberate letting go of tension held since morning, but the organic relaxation that comes from being in a place where there is simply nothing to brace against, nothing coming that requires preparation, nothing here except the path and the lavender and the sky and the evening doing what it always does when left alone, which is to become slowly and inexorably more beautiful. The stone path here has become rougher, the paving giving way in sections to bare earth and then returning to stone, as though the path has been repaired many times in many eras by whoever was responsible for keeping it walkable, each repair done with whatever material was available, so that the path has this layered quality, old stone here, newer stone there, a section of packed gravel that has been there long enough to settle into something firm and sure. Another section of the original paving, worn so smooth, could almost be natural. Ahead of you now, at the top of this gentle rise, there is a small hill. Not a mountain, not even a proper hill by any strict definition, but a rounded elevation above the general level of the valley, high enough that from its top you will be able to see everything. The full extent of the lavender fields in every direction, the farmhouse sitting in its frame of cypress and olive, the stone path winding back the way you came, the distant hills where the sky is already showing the first colors of sunset in full. The path leads directly to the top of this small hill, and you follow it, your pace unchanged, your breathing easy, the lavender scent flowing around you with every step. The climb to the top of the small hill takes only a few minutes, the path switching gently back and forth across the slope to make the ascent as gradual as possible, as though whoever made this path knew that people would come here at the end of long days and designed the approach with that tiredness in mind, wanting the summit to be earned slowly and without effort. The lavender on this upper slope is wild rather than cultivated, growing in loose clusters where it has seeded itself over the years. The plants smaller and more sprawling than the ones in the orderly rows of the valley fields, but somehow more vivid for their independence, their purple denser and more saturated against the pale dry grass around them. At the last turn of the path before the summit, You pass beneath a single stone pine tree that grows from a crack in an outcrop of pale limestone, its roots spreading across the rock surface and finding their way down into the earth through every available gap. The tree is not large, perhaps twice your height, but its canopy spreads wide and flat in that characteristic way of stone pines, a parasol of dark evergreen that casts a cool shadow across the path. As you walk through this shadow, the temperature drops just slightly, just enough to notice, and the scent changes beneath the tree, the lavender giving way momentarily to the resinous warmth of pine, sharp and clean and ancient. You emerge from the tree's shadow into the full warmth of the evening sun, and you are at the top. And the valley is below you, and the sky is above you, and the lavender is everywhere. The view from this small summit is one of those views that organizes itself in your mind immediately and completely, the way only the most beautiful and most right things do, the elements falling into their proper relationships so that the whole thing reads as a single composition rather than a collection of individual things. The valley floor spread out with its rows of lavender, the stone path winding through it, the farmhouse warm in its cypress frame with that amber window burning softly. The hills rolling away in every direction, their slopes covered in alternating patterns of lavender and rough scrub and old woodland, the trees getting darker and more defined as the light gets lower and more directional. And above all of this, the sky. The sky from this vantage point is immense. It has that quality of particular places and particular elevations, the way height always gives the sky more room to be itself, more presence, more of whatever the sky is doing at any given moment. And what it is doing now, as you stand on this small summit with the warm evening air moving around you and the scent of lavender rising from below, is extraordinary. The sun is visible now as a specific thing, a disk of deep amber hanging above the western hills. Its light no longer white or gold, but a warm and saturated orange that dyes everything it touches. The lavender below not purple anymore, but a deep rose violet, the pale stone of the farmhouse walls glowing like heated copper, the dry grass on the hillsides turning to something close to burnished gold. The clouds, where they exist, are catching this light from below, their undersides painted in gradations from pale amber to deep rose to a red-orange that exists at the upper extreme of that color family, the side facing the sun blazing while the other side falls into soft shadow, each cloud its own small drama of light and dark, its own perfect demonstration of the fact that the world is a place of constant, effortless beauty when you are in the right place to see it. You stand on the summit and you watch. You do not move. There is nothing to do here except watch and breathe and receive. The sun moves as it always does, imperceptibly and inevitably, and the colors below you shift with it, the rose deepening, the shadows lengthening, the lavender changing its character from moment to moment, and each moment is the best one until the next one arrives and displaces it. A breeze comes across the summit, warm and constant, lifting your hair slightly, moving against your face with that particular quality of evening air that always feels like a kind of benediction, like the world's gentlest acknowledgement of your presence within it. You close your eyes for a moment, just for a moment, feeling the sun on your face and the breeze against your skin and the ground solid beneath your feet. And in this moment, all of it is simply this: warmth, air, stone, lavender, evening. All of it is simply and perfectly here. When you open your eyes, the sun has descended slightly further, and its color has deepened, and the valley below is even more beautiful than it was before. You sit down. It happens naturally, your body finding the right stone on the summit's edge, a flat outcrop of limestone worn smooth by wind and the occasional visit of someone else who also found this place and also wanted to sit and watch the evening come in. The stone is warm beneath you, the day's heat stored in its pale surface, releasing slowly now as the sun's angle changes, and you settle onto it with a quiet gratitude for the solidity of the earth and the warmth it offers so freely and without expectation. From this seated position, the view changes just slightly, the horizon dropping, the lavender fields rising, and the sky filling more of your field of vision. The evening star is visible now, the first one, a single steady point of light above the hills to the east where the sky has already pulled itself toward a deeper blue, a blue with weight and depth to it, a blue that suggests the night waiting patiently behind it for its turn to come. You watch the evening star for a while. It does not twinkle, not yet, the atmospheric conditions this close to the horizon smoothing out the scintillation, and so it sits there. In the deepening blue, like a small, steady lantern, like the lamp in the farmhouse window far below, a point of warmth in the cooling air. Below you, the lavender is beginning its own transition with the fading light, the vivid purples of the afternoon giving way to something more muted and more mysterious. The colors softening into the evening in the way that all colors do, finding their resting versions, their overnight selves, less saturated but more deep, the whole landscape settling toward the long, quiet blue of twilight. The bees have fallen silent. Their work is done for the day, the hive calling them back through whatever knowledge bees have of the timing of things, and the valley is quieter now without their hum. The crickets moving into the space the bees have left, their sounds spreading and deepening, filling every corner of the warm evening with that patient pulsing that will continue all through the night. In the lavender rose below, a single firefly lights briefly, a small yellow-green flash that exists for a second and then is gone. Then another a few rows over. Then one near the stone path, rising from the lavender as though the flower itself had briefly illuminated, a small piece of the sunset come loose and drifting through the plants. You watch the fireflies begin their evening work with the feeling that you always have when you see them, which is not quite wonder and not quite pleasure but something of both, some response in you to the simple, inexplicable beauty of a living creature that makes its own light. You breathe, the air has the first suggestion of coolness in it now, not cold, not even close to cold, but a freshness that was not there an hour ago, the warmth of the day beginning its long, slow surrender to the night. Your skin is aware of it, the fine hairs on your arms standing just slightly, not with cold but with the recognition of change, the body's own attention to the shifting of the air. The sky in the west is a spectacle. The sun is very close to the hills now, its disk enlarged by the atmosphere into something almost too large to be real, orange and amber and a deep copper at its center. And the sky around it has spread into a vast gradient of color that begins at that deep orange near the sun and moves through amber, then gold, then a pale rose, then a richer rose, then up into the lavender pink that always appears in the sky above a sunset as though the land below has lent its color to the heavens, then finally into the deepening blue above, where the first stars are beginning to appear. You tip your head back and you look straight up, and the blue above you is extraordinary, that particular shade that exists only in the minutes after the sun has set its context, but before it has truly gone, a blue that seems to have light within it rather than simply reflecting light from without, a blue that feels somehow like the inside of something, like the inside of the sky itself, vast and still and perfectly, absolutely blue. After a time, you rise. You do this easily, naturally, without the effort that sitting down sometimes requires when you rise again, because the rest has been real rest, the stone beneath you and the evening around you and the lavender below working together to loosen whatever still needed loosening, to settle whatever still needed settling. You stand on the small summit and you look at the valley one more time in its evening state, its deepened colors, its fireflies, its stone farmhouse glowing amber in the last of the direct light. Then you turn your feet back to the path and you begin to walk down. The descent is gradual, the path winding back through the lavender the way it brought you up, and the lavender in this lower light has a quality you have not seen before tonight. The flower spikes nearly colorless now in the growing dusk, their edges silvered by the last of the reflected sky, the whole field having given up its daytime purple for something more like luminescence. A faint glow that comes not from any specific source, but from the collective presence of all those flowers and all that evening sky meeting somewhere in between. The stone pine tree passes over you again, its shadow now much lighter than before because the light itself is lower and gentler, and the scent of pine resin is stronger in the cooled air, sharp and clean. And then you are through it and on the lower path, and the stone path is ahead of you again, its surface catching what remains of the directional light from the west and throwing it back in soft, irregular patches. The evening is very quiet now, not empty of sound. The crickets are loud and full in the grass beside the path, the occasional distant call of a night bird just beginning from somewhere in the old woodland on the far hills, the sound of your own footsteps on the stone, steady and unhurried, but quiet in the sense that matters, which is the quietness that belongs to an evening that has resolved itself, that has moved through all its afternoon business and its sunset ceremony, and arrived at the still point of early dusk, the place between day and night where the world simply is, neither in motion toward something nor away from something, just here. You walk the stone path slowly, your hands trailing occasionally through the lavender as before, the flowers cooler now on your fingertips, the oil of them still releasing at your touch, the scent rising up around you in a final generosity, the last gift of the day's warmth stored in those small petals. The stone path eventually meets a small junction, where a rougher track branches off toward the farmhouse and another continues along the valley edge toward the south. You stand at this junction for a moment, looking both ways, and then you take the track that continues south, toward where the valley narrows slightly and the hills come closer together, toward where you can see in the fading light a shape that is not a hill and not a farmhouse, but something smaller, lower, built of the same pale stone as everything else in this landscape, but with a specific character. A roundness of form, a smallness of proportion that suggests not habitation, but something more contemplative. A chapel. It is small, extremely small, the kind of chapel that was built for a single family or a single farmstead, not for a congregation but for a practice, for the daily or weekly offering of something private and necessary. Its walls are thick and pale, the stone mellowed to a warm cream in the last of the light, its single window a simple arch of glass that glows faintly from within, as though someone has left a candle burning inside, or perhaps the last of the sky's ambient light is simply finding a way through the glass and pooling there against the interior wall. The chapel has a small tower just high enough to hold a single bell, and the bell hangs there, dark and still against the paling sky. There is a garden around the chapel, or the remains of a garden, old rose bushes trained against the south wall, their summer blooming long finished now, but their stems still arching with grace. And at the chapel door, which stands open as though it has stood open for years and years, a lavender plant of enormous age and size, its woody base thick as a young tree, its spreading arms layered with flower spikes in every stage of the season's progression, from early bud to full flower to the dried and browning tips of the oldest growth. The smell of it is enormous, a concentrated essence, and you breathe it in as you approach, letting it fill you completely. You do not go inside. You stand in the chapel's small garden and you look at the building and you breathe the lavender and you listen to the evening around you, the crickets, the distant night bird, the very faint sound of wind in the bell tower, a sound so quiet it is almost imagined, almost just the memory of wind. There is a stone bench against the chapel's south wall, in the warmth that radiates from the stone even now, and you sit on it for a while, your back against the warm wall, the lavender garden spread before you, the valley visible through a gap in the low garden wall, the fireflies moving through the lavender fields below in their dozens now, their small lights drifting and pulsing through the darkening rows. The sky is extraordinary from here. The sun is gone, finally, fully beneath the western hills, but its presence is still written across the entire western sky in gradations of deep rose and amber that are fading even as you watch, the colors becoming less saturated with every passing minute, pulling toward the deeper blue-gray that will fill the whole sky within the hour. But what is happening in the east is equally beautiful in a different register. The stars are coming. Not just the evening star now, but others, 3, 5, a dozen, appearing one by one in the deepening eastern sky in that way that always seems sudden, even though it always happens at exactly this pace. The sky simply darkening around them until they become visible, as if they were always there, waiting for the light to withdraw enough to let them be seen. Air is noticeably cooler now. Not cold, but that specific temperature of a summer evening after sunset, when the warmth of the day has withdrawn from the air but not yet from the earth and the stone and the dense plantings of lavender that have been absorbing heat all afternoon and are still releasing it in a slow, warm breath. You pull a light wrap around your shoulders, the fabric soft and slightly warmed from your own body, and you settle back against the chapel wall and you breathe and you watch the stars appear. The village is visible from the chapel garden you can see it through the gap in the garden wall and across the narrowing valley, a cluster of buildings on the opposite hillside, small and close together in the way of villages that grew up when people walked everywhere and closeness was warmth and safety. The buildings are pale stone like everything here, but at this hour they are hardly distinguishable from their material at all, the whole village softened and dimmed by distance and dusk until it is more suggestion than form, a shape on the hillside. But the lanterns are lit. This is what you can see most clearly. The soft gold of the lanterns hung on the village's narrow streets and at its doorways, each one a small point of warm light against the cooling blue of the evening. From here they look like a reflection of the fireflies in the lavender fields below, the same quality of soft, warm light drifting in the general dark, the same suggestion of inhabited warmth, of life continuing, of people moving through their evenings in small pools of lantern glow. There is the faintest sound from the village, carried across the valley on the evening air, barely audible, more felt than heard. The sound of people gathered together in the gentle way of evenings, not loud, not urgent, just present. A voice here, a laugh there, the sound of something being placed on a table, a door opening and closing. The ordinary, beautiful sounds of a village settling into its evening. You listen to these sounds for a long time, or what feels like a long time, the way time extends and softens when the body is at rest and the mind is quieted and there's nothing pressing on either of them. The sounds come and go, carried and then taken by the breeze, and between them the crickets continue their tireless chorus and the nightbird calls again from the far woodland, and somewhere, very distantly, a dog barks once and then falls silent. The stars are multiplying. You look up from the valley and the village and the lanterns, and you find the sky above you thick with them now, the full canopy of a clear summer night beginning to establish itself. The Milky Way just barely suggested along the zenith, where the light pollution from the village is too faint to dim it. A soft brightness in the deep blue that will strengthen as the night deepens further. The moon has not risen yet. The sky is dark enough that the stars are very clear, and the darkness between them is very dark, and the whole sky has that quality that only appears. On clear rural nights, the depth of it, the sense that you are looking not at a surface but into an interior, into the actual space between stars, which is vast and cold and ancient, and has nothing to do with anything that concerns you tonight except as a reminder of scale. A gentle, useful perspective on the smallness and sweetness of this garden, this valley, these lanterns, this evening. The lavender around the chapel has become a dark silhouette, its flower spikes just visible against the slightly paler sky, their individual blooms invisible now, the whole plant reduced to shape and scent, but the scent is undiminished. If anything, it is stronger in the cool evening air, the way the scent of lavender always intensifies as the temperature drops, the oils in the flowers releasing into cool air with a willingness they withheld from the heat of the day, a generosity that belongs entirely to the night. You breathe it in, sitting against the warm chapel wall, wrapped in your soft fabric, watching the stars and the village lanterns and the drifting fireflies in the valley below, and the feeling in you now is very quiet. It is not the quiet of absence or emptiness, but the quiet of completion, of a day completed, of a walk completed, of something that needed doing being done, not in the sense of a task accomplished, but in the sense of having been somewhere entirely, of having given yourself to a place and a time without reservation, and received in return everything that place and time had to offer. Your eyes are heavy, not with the heaviness of fatigue exactly, though you're tired in the good way, the way of a body that has walked a pleasant distance through a beautiful landscape in warm evening air. It is more the heaviness of deepening rest, of the body beginning to move toward the next thing, the thing that follows all days, all walks, all lavender fields and chapel gardens and lanternlit villages, which is the dark and the quiet and the deep, restorative stillness of sleep. But not yet, not quite yet. You close your eyes for a moment, and in the darkness behind them, the lavender scent is even stronger, the undivided scent of it filling your attention completely, cool and clean and deep, and beneath it the sound of crickets, the very faint voice of the village, the barely there movement of air through the lavender stalks around you, and the feeling of warm stone at your back and solid earth beneath your feet, and a sky full of stars above you, and nowhere on earth that you need to be except exactly here. You breathe. The lavender breathes with you. The evening holds you warmly and completely in its quiet and fragrant dark. After a while you rise from the bench, slowly, your body moving with the careful unhurriedness of deep relaxation, and you walk to the chapel garden gate, a simple iron gate that swings open silently on well-tended hinges. You pass through it and onto the path beyond, the rough track that follows the valley's edge, and you walk south. The path here is the most beautiful it has been all evening. The darkness has done something to the landscape that the daylight kept to itself. It has unified everything. The separate elements, the lavender rose and the rough grass and the old stone walls and the scattered olive trees have merged at the edges into a single continuous presence, a landscape that is now shadow and suggestion and the small, specific light of stars and fireflies and the distant village lantern. Within this unity there is great peace. The small details have been softened and the large shapes remain, and the large shapes of this valley are generous and round and unhurried. The path is faintly visible, a slightly paler line in the surrounding dark, and you follow it without difficulty, your feet finding the right way with the ease that belongs to bodies that have walked a long distance and learned the texture of the ground beneath them. You walk slowly, even more slowly than before, the natural deceleration of deep evening settling into your movement, each step placed with a care that is not anxious but simply present, aware of the ground, aware of the night air, aware of the whole night around you. The lavender on either side of the path is very dark, the flower spikes silver where they catch the starlight, and as you walk, the scent rises from them continuously, that beloved smell that belongs now to this whole evening, to every part of the walk from the first gentle hill to the summit view to the chapel garden. The scent that has woven itself through all of it and will be with you when you close your eyes tonight and for many nights after that. The smell of a long summer evening spent among lavender fields at the end of a peaceful day. Your shoulders are loose, your jaw is unclenched, your hands hang soft and open at your sides, your breath moves in and out without your attention, without your management, doing what it knows how to do, carrying the lavender-scented air in and releasing it, in and releasing it, in and releasing it. A firefly drifts past you on the path, close enough that you could reach out to it if you chose, its light blinking on and off with that rhythm that always seems both random and inevitable, both surprising and completely right. You watch it drift away from you into the lavender rose, its light moving between the flower spikes, and then it blinks off and you cannot find it again, though whether it has gone out or simply moved far enough into the field to lose itself among the shadows, you cannot say. You keep walking. The valley narrows further ahead, the hills coming close together, and the path curves with the land, and around this curve, in a natural hollow where the hillside has formed a gentle concave shape that catches the cooling air and holds it, there is a place where the lavender has been left entirely to grow as it will, uncultivated and unmown for years perhaps, the plants enormous and sprawling, some of them as tall as your shoulder. Their flower spikes so abundant and so numerous that even in the darkness you can feel the presence of the color, the way you feel warmth before you are close enough for it to actually warm you. You stop here in this hollow, in this wild lavender place, and you stand still. The stars above the hollow are very bright. The hollow shields you from the slight breeze that has been with you all evening, and in this stillness the scent of the lavender is something else entirely, more than scent, more than fragrance, something that fills the air so completely it seems to have weight and texture, something you breathe not just with your lungs but with your whole body, your skin, your hands, the whole surface of you that is open to the night. You stand in it for a long time. The crickets are very loud here, their sound amplified by the hollow, the chorus of them filling the air from every direction simultaneously, a sound so continuous and so complete that it stops being sound and becomes simply the texture of the night, the way the scent has become the texture of the air, both of them part of what it is to be in this place at this hour, neither separate nor isolable from the whole experience of standing in a hollow full of wild lavender under a sky full of stars. Your eyelids are very heavy, not with tiredness, or not only with tiredness, with something gentler, with the weight of beauty received of an evening thoroughly inhabited, of a body that has walked and rested and breathed and watched and been warmed by the sun and cooled by the dusk and finally brought to this place, this hollow, this wild lavender and these stars, and been given exactly what it needed, which is this, quiet and warmth and fragrance and the enormous, patient dark. You breathe in, lavender, you breathe out, the night receives it, and out, the crickets sing. The stars wheel very slowly overhead in their ancient, unhurried rotation. And somewhere below you in the valley, in the lavender fields you walked through this evening, the fireflies continue their small, patient work, lighting and going dark and lighting again, measuring out the night in their own private units of illumination, the world's smallest lanterns, the world's most generous light. You find at the edge of the wild lavender hollow, a place where the ground is soft and level, where the lavender plants form a kind of enclosure, their tall stems curving over slightly to make a sheltered space, and the grass here is dry and fine and the earth beneath it is warm, and you settle down slowly into this place, sitting first, then leaning back, supported by the soft ground, the lavender a wall of scent on every side. The sky above you is now fully the night sky of deep summer, the blue entirely gone, replaced by the deep black that is never quite black when the stars are out, that particular dark which is the color of space itself, of the space between stars, which is what you are looking at. Space, the actual literal space of the universe, with stars scattered across it in their millions, some bright and close and distinct, some so faint and distant they are barely perceptions, more felt than seen, the eye not quite sure if they are there until it looks away and then returns. The Milky Way is visible now, not brilliantly, not the way it appears in the darkest places on Earth, but clearly, unmistakably, a band of density across the middle of the sky, a region where the stars are so numerous and so close together that their combined light makes something like a river, a soft, luminous current running from one horizon almost to the other, the edge-on view of the galaxy in which everything you have ever known is contained. You look at the Milky Way for a long time. You do not think about what it is or how it formed or how many stars it contains. You simply look at it, the way you looked at the sunset earlier, receiving it without analysis, without wanting to capture it, without wanting to explain it, just being with it in the quiet and the lavender-scented dark. Your body has settled into the earth. Your weight has been fully given to the ground, and the ground has accepted it completely. And you lie there supported and held and warm, and the sky is very large above you, and the lavender is very close on every side, and the crickets are very full in the warm air, and the village lanterns are somewhere in the distance, and the fireflies are somewhere below, and the chapel is somewhere behind you with its bell hanging still in the dark, and the path you walked this evening is somewhere in the night. Winding back through fields and over the small hill and along the stone path and past the olive tree and the wooden fence and all the way back to where you began. At that dusty track at the edge of the countryside in the warm late afternoon, when the sun was still high and the lavender was still gold lit and the whole evening was still ahead of you, all possibility, all the beauty of the coming hours waiting in the warm and fragrant air. You have walked it all. You have walked through the fields and up the hill and along the stone path and under the olive tree and up to the summit and down again, and along the chapel garden and into the narrow valley end and here, to this hollow, to this grass, to this warm earth, to this sky. And now you are here. And the night is deep and kind and full of stars. And the lavender wraps you in its ancient, gentle scent. And the earth holds you as it always holds you, completely and without condition. And your breath comes and goes, in and out, in and out. In the out, in the out. The crickets sing. The stars are still. The lavender is very close, its scent filling everything, the air, the dark, the warm hollow of this moment, the entire field of your awareness. And you are resting, really resting, the way the earth rests at the end of the day, having given everything it had to the sun, having received everything the day had to offer, now turning slowly toward the deep, restorative quiet of the night. You are held here, held by the earth, held by the dark, held by the lavender and the warmth and the stars and the slow pulse of the crickets in the summer. Grass. There is nothing more to do, there is nowhere more to go. There is only this, the breath, the dark, the scent, the stars. In the out, slow, wisely. The fireflies drift somewhere below. The village lanterns burn their soft and steady gold. And the lavender fields breathe with you, in and out, in the warm and starlit dark of this long, beautiful, unhurried summer night. The crossing happens without a sound. One moment you are here in the hollow, breathing the lavender, feeling the warm earth beneath you and the cool night air above, the crickets loud and full in the grass around you, the stars wheeling very slowly in their ancient rotation overhead. And then, without a gap, without a boundary you can point to and name, you are somewhere else. Or you are here still, but here has changed. The hollow and the lavender and the night sky still present, but transformed, as though the same landscape has been repainted by a hand that works only in the hours of sleep, using colors that do not exist in waking life and a light that comes from no specific source, but is simply the quality of the dream itself, warm and diffuse and entirely sufficient. The lavender scent has come with you. Of course it has. It will be with you all night long. It was the first thing you breathed this evening, and it will be the last thing before morning. It has woven itself into every breath and every step and every quiet moment of this long and beautiful day until it is less a smell than a condition. The way warmth is a condition. The way the dark is a condition. Something you exist within rather than something you perceive from a distance. You breathe it in deeply and without effort, the way the sleeping body breathes. Automatically, completely, the lungs filling to their capacity and releasing fully, the whole cycle unhurried and sufficient, the breath of a body that has finally, after the long work of the day and the long walk of the evening, been given full permission to simply rest. And you rest. The dreaming begins gently. There is no sharp transition, no sudden arrival in a new place, only a gradual deepening of what was already here. The hollow becoming the dream of the hollow, the lavender becoming the dream of lavender, and the dream of lavender being, as you will discover, something richer and more complete than even the waking lavender. Because the dreaming mind takes what the waking world offers and opens it, the way a flower opens in the morning, revealing what was always there, contained in potential. Waiting for the right conditions. The hollow in the dream is still the hollow. The same soft ground, the same wild lavender on every side, the same stars above, and yet everything is slightly more than itself, the way things are in the most benevolent kind of dream, the kind that the body produces for itself on the nights when the conditions are right, when the temperature is kind and the place is safe, and the nervous system has been thoroughly reassured by hours of warmth and fragrance and the patient beauty of a long summer evening. The lavender in the dream is taller, just slightly, just enough that it forms a true enclosure around you, the flower spikes reaching above your resting body and curving gently inward at their tips, so that you are lying in something that feels less like an open hollow and more like a nest, a cup of lavender shaped precisely to hold you, warm and fragrant and soft on every side. You do not think about this, you simply receive it the way the sleeping mind receives everything it generates, without analysis, without the evaluating voice of the waking intellect that would normally ask how and why and what it means. The dreaming mind does not ask these things. It simply inhabits what it makes, living inside its own creations with the complete and unquestioning presence of a child in play, the self and the dream the same thing, no distance between them. You are in the lavender. The lavender is around you. The stars are overhead, and the night holds all of it, the hollow and the dream and the sleeping body and the waking body that is the same body and the stars that are the same stars whether you are asleep or waking. The whole arrangement held in the patient dark of a summer night that has no particular interest in the distinction between sleeping and waking, that holds both with the same unhurried generosity. Your hands in the dream are lying open, as they are lying open on the real ground of the real hollow, palms up, fingers gently curved. This is the position your hands take when they are completely at rest, when nothing is asked of them and nothing is being held, when the muscles have released their daytime readiness and the hands are simply themselves, the hands you were born with, older now but still essentially the same instruments of touch and grip and gesture, and the countless small negotiations between a person and their world that hands are called upon to perform every waking hour of every day. In the dream, your hands are resting on lavender. The florets brush the inside of your palms with a touch so light it is barely a touch, more the suggestion of a touch, the knowledge of softness against skin, and where the flowers touch you they leave very faintly the concentrated oil of themselves, the essence of lavender pressed gently into the skin of your palms, so that if you were to wake and bring your hands to your face, you would breathe the scent of 1,000 flowers compressed into this single gift of contact. But you do not wake. You rest deeper. Your fingers curl just slightly, just the smallest reflexive curl of fingers that have found something good to rest against. And the lavender receives this small unconscious gesture with the patience it brings to everything, the long patience of a plant that has been growing in this hollow for many years, that has survived every summer and every autumn and every winter this valley has offered. That knows something about endurance that has nothing to do with effort and everything to do with root depth and the willingness to grow toward the light. Scent intensifies briefly, the way lavender scent always intensifies when it is disturbed, when a hand or a sleeve or a passing breeze moves through the flowers and releases more of what they contain. The intensification reaches you even in sleep, your sleeping nose registering the change, your sleeping lungs drawing a slightly deeper breath in response, the body's automatic gratitude for something good expressed in the only way available to it at this depth of rest, by opening more fully, by receiving more completely. And the lavender breathes with you. There's a moth somewhere above you in the dream. You know it is there without seeing it, the way you know things in dreams, with a certainty that has no evidence and needs none, a direct knowledge that bypasses the ordinary routes of perception and arrives already complete. The moth is white. It flies in slow, irregular circles above the hollow, its wings making that barely their sound that moth wings make, a disturbance of air so minimal it can only be heard in true quiet, and the hollow is truly quiet. The cricket's a continuous undertone too familiar now to register as sound, just the texture of the night. The moth drifts in its slow circles, and as it passes between you and the stars, it makes a small shadow, a brief eclipse of a single star, a momentary darkening that is over before it has quite begun. And then the moth drifts on, and the star is there again, steady and unperturbed, a point of cold white light in the deep blue-black of the dream sky. You watch the moth without deciding to watch it. Without lifting your head, without any effort at all, simply receiving the information that it is there through the open and effortless awareness that sleep permits, awareness without attention, perception without purpose, simply the mind registering what passes through its field in the unhurried and unjudging way that the sleeping mind registers everything, here and here and here. The moth circles lower. Now it is very close, just above the highest lavender tips, its white wings just visible in the starlight. And as it passes close to the flowers, it moves through the concentrated scent cloud that hangs above the hollow. The air rich with lavender oil that has been rising slowly all evening from the warm plants. And the moth moves through this fragrant air as naturally as a swimmer moves through water, without resistance, without disturbance, belonging entirely to the night and the lavender and the warm summer dark. Then it rises again, climbing back toward the stars in its slow and wandering spiral, and in a few moments it is gone, dissolved into the dark above the hollow, and the night is as it was before, and you are as you are, deep and still and restful in the lavender. The star the moth briefly darkened is still there. Of course it is. Stars are patient things. The crickets have a rhythm that you have stopped hearing as a rhythm and started hearing as a presence, a continuous ambient warmth of sound that fills the hollow the way the lavender scent fills it, completely without gaps, so thoroughly that to remove it would be to remove something essential from the night itself, to make the night less than what it is. This is what the great summer cricket chorus does. It completes the night. It makes the warm, dark whole. It fills every silence that would otherwise accumulate in the hours between midnight and dawn and turn the night from peaceful to empty. And in filling it creates something that is itself a kind of music. Not music in the deliberate and constructed sense, but music in the oldest sense, the sense in which all continuous and patterned sound is music, the sense in which the world has been making music since before there were ears to hear it. Your sleeping ears hear it. They hear it the way they hear your heartbeat, not as something external and arriving, but as something internal and continuous, part of the background of your own existence, the sound of being alive in a warm place in the dark. The heartbeat. Underneath the crickets, underneath the moth-wing sounds and the barely there movement of air through lavender stems, underneath everything, your heartbeat. 60 times a minute, or perhaps slower now, perhaps 55, the rate that belongs to deep sleep, to the fully rested body, to the heart that is doing its work at the pace that serves it best, that serves you best, the long, efficient strokes of a muscle that is also, like everything else tonight, completely unhurried. Your heartbeat and the crickets in the warm night and the lavender scent in every breath and the warm earth beneath your back and the stars above, and the dream that is this hollow and the hollow that is the dream, all of it one thing, all of it the night that holds you, all of it the rest that receives you. You go deeper. This is what sleep does in its middle hours. It goes deeper. Past the threshold, past the drowsy shallows, past even the first layer of dream, down into something that has fewer images and fewer sounds and fewer of the mind's usual productions, down into the place that is closer to the body than to the mind, where the body does its essential work of repair and restoration in the dark, quietly and without asking anything of you. You are going there now. The lavender comes with you. The warmth of the earth comes with you. Even at this depth, the sound of the crickets comes with you, or what remains of it, a faint, continuous pulse at the very bottom of awareness, the last thread connecting the sleeping self to the world above, thin as a single hair but unbroken, the body keeping its minimal contact with its surroundings even in the deepest rest, that ancient and reliable monitoring system that will continue all through the night, testing the air for danger, tasting the darkness for change, and finding, continuously and reliably. The same answer, safe, warm, still, all well. All well, all well, all well. In the deepest part of the sleep there are no images. This is not emptiness. It is the opposite of emptiness. It is a fullness so complete it has no room for the individual shapes and colors that the mind uses to represent the world to itself. It is the state that some very old traditions have words for and most do not, the state that is not quite dreamless sleep because something is present, something is aware, but what is present and aware has no particular form and no particular content. It is simply the awareness itself, the pure fact of consciousness at its most basic and most restful, before it has taken on any of the particular shapes that waking life requires of it. You are there. For a time, you are simply there. Not in the hollow, not in the lavender, not in the valley or the summer night, just in the wordless presence of your own deepest rest, held by nothing more and nothing less than the simple fact of being, of continuing, of the heartbeat keeping its pace and the lungs drawing their slow breath, and the warmth of the earth providing its constant support from below. This is the center. This is what you walked toward this evening, all the way from the beginning of the dusty path to the stone pathway to the chapel garden to the wild lavender hollow. Not consciously, not with intention, but with the body's own intelligence, the body that knows what it needs and moves toward it when given the freedom to do so, and what it needed was this. The complete simplicity of the deepest rest, the wordless and imageless center of sleep, the place where the day is fully set down and the night is fully received and there is, for this time, nothing else. Rest here. Simply rest. There is nothing to do. Nothing to remember. Nothing to prepare for. Only this breath, this warmth, this dark, this complete and absolute and generously given rest. From the deepest place, the return is gradual. This is how it always works. The depth is not a place you descend to once and then stay in until morning. It is a place you visit and return from and visit again. The sleep cycling through its phases the way the seasons cycle through their changes. The body moving through different kinds of rest through the night, each kind serving its purpose, together composing the full restoration that the sleeping body performs for itself and for you in the hours of the dark. You are rising now slightly through the layers, not toward waking, but toward the lighter sleep where dreaming lives, where the mind begins to make its images again from the materials the day has provided and the materials the deeper rest has renewed. The lavender meets you on the way back up. It has been there all along, of course, the scent filling every breath regardless of depth, but now you become aware of it again, aware in the way you can be aware while still deeply asleep, the sensation arriving in the consciousness the way things arrive in shallow water. Gently and without urgency, settling into the shallower sleep like a gift being placed by careful hands. Lavender, yes. The scent of it moves through you like warmth, like the warmth of the stored heat earth that has been against your back all night, the warmth that has become your warmth and your warmth that has become its warmth, the two temperatures so long in contact that they have reached their agreement and are now simply one continuous warmth, body and earth together. A dream begins to form. In this dream you are not walking, you are simply in the lavender, present in it the way the scent is present in the air, everywhere at once, not located in any particular point, but distributed through the whole space, filling every part of it. You are the lavender, and the lavender is you, and the distinction that waking life insists upon between a person and their surroundings has dissolved, gently and completely, as though it were never quite as solid as it seemed, as though even while awake you were more continuous with the world around you than the clear edges of your skin suggested. This feels like relief. Like setting down something you have been carrying so long you forgot it was something you were carrying and thought it was simply part of you, and then setting it down and feeling the absence of the weight and understanding with that understanding that the weight was never essential, was never yours in any absolute sense, was simply the weight of the boundary itself, the effort of maintaining the distinction between self and world that waking life requires and sleeping life releases. In the dream you move through the lavender the way the scent moves through the air, effortlessly and in all directions at once. You are on the hillside above the valley and you are on the stone path and you are in the chapel garden and you are on the small summit looking out at the sunset and you are at the beginning of the dusty path with the whole evening still ahead, all of these at the same time, all of them equally real, equally present, the evening not as a sequence but as a wholeness, all its beautiful moments existing simultaneously in the way that memory and dream allow, time arranged not as a line but as a landscape. Every moment of it visible at once. The light in this dream is the light you have been carrying since the beginning, the golden amber of the late afternoon that was falling across the fields when you First stepped onto the dusty path, and it falls across everything simultaneously. The whole evening bathed in that particular warmth. The lavender field and the stone path and the chapel and the hollow, all lit by the same long-angled sunset light, as though this evening has no darkness in it, as though the beauty of the afternoon has extended to fill every hour, which in the dream it has. The lavender is very purple, more purple than any waking lavender. The purple of dreams, which is deeper and richer and more saturated than anything the waking eye can quite produce. The purple of the inside of closed eyes in warm light. The purple that the brain offers when it is working with color freely and without the constraints of the physical spectrum. You breathe this purple in. It is also a scent. In the dream, the color and the scent are the same thing, or aspects of the same thing. The way warmth and light from the sun are aspects of the same thing. The purple visible and the lavender fragrant, and both of them simply expressions of this place, this evening, this rest. The farmhouse appears in the dream. You see it from the valley floor as you saw it during the walk, small and warm in the distance with its cypress trees standing dark on either side and the amber light in its window burning steadily in the early evening. But in the dream you can see more of it than you could from the path. The kitchen table inside, set simply with a cloth and a lamp, a glass jug of water with lavender stems in it, the water faintly purple with the steeped flowers. Someone has been cooking, the smell of it carried on the dream air, bread and herbs and something long simmered. The smell of a kitchen at evening in a farmhouse that has been a farmhouse for a very long time. The kitchen is empty. Or almost empty. There is a cat on the windowsill, an old tabby with closed eyes and that extraordinary stillness that cats achieve when they are truly at rest. A stillness that makes them look like the ideal of rest, the platonic form of relaxation. A creature that has fully perfected the art of being completely and without apology at ease. The cat's chest rises and falls. Your chest rises and falls. The two of you breathing in the same dream, in the same rhythm, the kitchen cat and the person in the lavender hollow, both deeply asleep, both tended to by the night, both resting with the completeness of things that have spent themselves fully. In the day's work and received in return the night's full gift of repair. The lamp on the kitchen table burns its amber light through the window, out into the dream evening, out across the lavender fields, a small warm signal in the large warm dark. Here is warmth, here is safety, here is the ordinary and essential and irreplaceable beauty of a room where someone has set a table and lit a lamp, and the cat is sleeping on the windowsill, and the lavender stands in a jug of water on a summer evening. You look at this for a long time, standing in the dream field, breathing the dream lavender, and the lamp burns steady and the cat sleeps still, and the lavender in the jug is very purple in the amber light. Then the dream carries you on gently, as dreams carry you without asking. The chapel is in the dream. You stand in its small garden again, your back against the warm stone wall, the enormous old lavender plant at the door releasing its concentrated scent into the air around you, the whole garden smelling of it, the air so thick with lavender that breathing it is a kind of nourishment, the lungs filling with something that seems richer than ordinary air, more sustaining as though the lavender has added something to the oxygen, some ingredient of its own that feeds not the body's metabolism but something else. Something in the nervous system that is quieter and slower and older than metabolism, some part of you that the lavender has always known how to reach. The village is visible through the gap in the garden wall. The lanterns are lit, the same warm gold you saw when you sat here this evening. And from across the valley you can hear the sounds of the village, softer now in the dream, more distant, the voices and the small domestic sounds of people moving through their evenings reduced to a gentle murmur that has no words in it but carries all the warmth of words, the warmth of other people being alive and going about their lives a comfortable distance away. The bell in the chapel tower is still dark against the sky. But in the dream, if you listen with the particular listening that dreams make possible, you can hear a sound from it anyway, not a ring, not the clear note it would make if someone pulled the rope, but a faint hum, a resonance, as though the bell is responding to the vibration of the crickets and the night air and the whole warm frequency of the summer valley, as though the metal of the bell is. Remembering every time it has rung and carrying that memory as a faint, continuous note that is mostly felt rather than heard, a vibration in the chest rather than a sound in the ears. You feel it there in your chest, in the place where the bell's note would land if you were standing close to it when it rang. A warmth, A resonance. Something vibrating very slowly at the deepest register, the frequency of a summer night in a lavender valley in a dream, which is the frequency of rest itself, which is what your body has been tuning to all evening from the first step on the dusty path to this moment, this dream chapel, this warm stone wall, this night that holds you completely. You rest against the wall. The lavender is at your shoulder. The stars are above the tower. And you are deep in the sleep that follows a beautiful evening, held in the dream of a valley that was also a real valley, breathing the dream of a scent that was also a real scent, resting in a peace that is both imagined and entirely bodily real. The hours of the night move through you, or you move through them, the distinction no longer meaningful, you and the night continuous with each other in the way that the sleeping body is continuous with its surroundings. The boundaries dissolved, the warmth shared, the dark belonging equally to the hollow and to the closed space behind your eyes. Each hour has its quality. The early hours were warm and full, the body settling into rest with that first gratitude of surrender, the tension of the day releasing in layers, each layer going down with the depth, the sleep growing from light and fragile to solid and complete as the first hour became the second and the second became the third. Those were the hours of the lavender filling every breath with its full daytime intensity, the warm earth still holding the afternoon sun, the crickets loud and confident in the summer grass. The middle hours were the deepest. Those are the hours you have already traveled through, the wordless center where the body does its most essential work, where the mind goes furthest from the waking world and closest to whatever is underneath the waking world, the quiet foundation that is always there and rarely visited. In those hours, the lavender was still present, but the awareness of it was only the faintest thread, a sensation too deep to be called a sensation, more a quality of the rest itself. And now the later hours, the hours that know what is coming, the hours that have begun very slowly and very gently to incline toward morning. Not urgently, not yet. The morning is still far enough away to be theoretical, still more night than not night, the dark above the hollow still full and uncompromised, the stars still brilliant in the clear summer sky. But something has shifted, some quality of the air or the dark or the silence between cricket calls, something that the sleeping body registers without bringing it to consciousness, the first barely their suggestion of change, the night beginning its very long and unhurried announcement that it will, eventually, be followed by a day. Your sleep in these later hours is lighter than it was, still deep, still completely restful, still receiving the full gift that sleep has to give, but lighter in the sense that the dream work is more active, the images more frequent, the sleeping mind closer to the surface of itself, closer to where the waking self lives, beginning its slow preparation for the return. The dreams in these hours are of warmth. Simply warm. The warmth of the evening you have spent in the lavender valley, the warmth of the path and the hillside and the stone wall and the earth of the hollow, the warmth of the sun that stored itself in all these surfaces through the long afternoon and released it slowly through the evening into the cooling night, the warmth that has been given to you freely and completely, held for you by the valley and offered to you without expectation or condition. In the dream you are warm. This is the whole content of the dream. Warmth. Somewhere in the night you turn again, your sleeping body making its small unconscious adjustment, and your face turns upward toward the sky, and the stars are very large above you, larger than they are in waking life. The way stars are in dreams when the mind gives them the size they deserve, the size appropriate to their actual distance and their actual magnitude, which is enormous beyond imagination. The imagination expanding in the dream to accommodate what the waking mind can know intellectually, but cannot quite feel. The stars are enormous and ancient, and they are shining directly on you, on your upturned face, and the light of them reaches you across a distance so vast it erases the concept of distance, because distance requires a scale, and the scale required to measure the distance between you and the nearest star is so much larger than any scale human beings normally employ that employing it transforms the concept of distance into something else entirely, into something closer to time, into the understanding that the light reaching your face right now left its source so long ago that the world was different then, not in minor ways, but in ways so fundamental that comparison becomes almost meaningless. And yet the light is here now, and your face is here now. And the meeting of the two, the ancient light and the living face, is happening right now, in this hollow, in this dream, in this ordinary and extraordinary summer night. You breathe in. The starlight fills you along with the lavender. You breathe out. Both go back into the night together. The moon. In the dream, the moon is rising over the eastern hills, appearing exactly as it appeared earlier in the waking night, the hill crest brightening before the moon itself is visible, the glow growing, the hilltop becoming more detailed in the building light, and then the moon clearing the ridge, not full but abundant, generous with its light, flooding the hollow with a silver warmth that is not the warmth of the sun, not golden or amber, but a cooler and somehow deeper warmth. A warmth that belongs specifically to moonlight in a summer lavender field, a warmth that has been felt by every person who has ever stood in a field by moonlight in summer and felt the specific sweetness of it, the specific quiet luxury of this kind of illuminated night. The lavender in the moonlight is silver. This is the word that comes even in the dream, silver. The flower spikes catching the moonlight along their tops and sides, the lower stems in soft shadow, the whole field composed now of silver and gray and the deep blue of true shadow. The purple of the daytime gone but replaced by something equally beautiful, more mysterious perhaps, more belonging to the night in its particular way of making the world beautiful, which is the way of suggestion and incompleteness, of showing enough to be beautiful and withholding enough to be entrancing. You are in the silver lavender. Your hands are open. Your face is upturned. The moon is above you and the stars are above the moon, and the lavender is on every side, and the dream is warm and the night is warm, and the earth is warm beneath you, and you are entirely, perfectly, completely here. In the dream, in the hollow, in the lavender, valley that is both real and dreamed, both the place you walked this evening and the place the sleeping mind has made of it, both the valley that exists in the countryside of a warm country on a summer night and the valley that exists inside you, the one you will carry with you after you leave, the interior valley with its lavender rose and its stone paths and its fireflies and its chapel bell, the valley that will come back to you on certain evenings when the air is warm and there is a smell of something herbal and sweet. And you will recognize it immediately and be glad. The night bird calls again. From the far woodland, the same four-note sequence as before, descending, the question asked into the dark without expectation of answer, because birds do not ask questions, they simply call, but the call has the shape of a question and the night has the quality of something considering its answer. The pause after the call held just long enough to feel like thought, and then the silence, and then the crickets, and then the call again, somewhere further along the woodland's edge. You hear this in your sleep. It comes to you not as a sound that wakes or disturbs, but as a sound that enters the dream and is received there. The four descending notes of the nightbird becoming part of the dream landscape, the way sounds from the waking world sometimes become part of a dream, incorporated smoothly and without friction, the dream adjusting to include them, the sleeping mind flexible enough to absorb what arrives and weave it into whatever it is constructing in the dark. In the dream, the nightbird's call is close, closer than it is in the waking world. You can almost see the bird in the dream, a small dark shape on a branch at the edge of the field, where the lavender rows give way to the rough grass and the first trees of the old woodland. It calls its four notes into the warm night, and they hang in the dream air briefly, the sound visible for a moment as something, not quite light, not quite color, more a vibration in the air that can be seen as well as heard, a small disturbance of the dream fabric that resolves almost immediately back into stillness. Then the bird is gone from the branch, lifted into the dark on wings that make no sound, and the lavender rows are empty again, the dream field extending from where you lie all the way to the distant hills under the moonlit sky. You breathe. The four notes of the nightbird are absorbed into the breath, into the scent of lavender that fills the breath, into the warmth of the night that holds the lavender that fills the breath, into the earth that holds the warmth that holds the night that holds the lavender that fills the breath that keeps you here, alive and warm and deeply, completely resting. There is a moment in the night that belongs to the stars alone. It comes in the hours between midnight and the first suggestion of dawn, when the moon has moved far enough west to dim its competition with the stars, when the last of the human light has gone out in the village across the valley, when the fireflies have done their work and gone to whatever fireflies go to in the deep of the night, when every lamp and every lantern and every lit window is dark, and the only light in the whole valley is the light of the stars themselves, pouring down from the full dark sky onto the sleeping fields and the sleeping hills and the lavender hollow where you lie. In this moment, the sky is more stars than sky. Or this is how it seems. So many points of light, so densely packed in the direction of the Milky Way, so present and so real in the absence of any competing light, that the dark background recedes and what remains is light, infinite and patient and very old. The accumulated glow of 100 billion burning things, each one enormous, each one so far away that its enormousness is compressed to a single point, a pin of cold fire in the warm summer dark. This light falls on you. Onto the hollow, onto the lavender, onto your upturned face, onto the open palms of your resting hands, onto the ground that holds you and the grass that surrounds you and the flower spikes that are silver and gray in this purely stellar illumination. No gold or amber in it, no warmth, just the clean white and pale blue of starlight, ancient light, the light that has been traveling toward this moment, toward this hollow, toward this particular arrangement of lavender and sleeping person and warm summer earth. For longer than the earth itself has existed, you are bathed in ancient light. Your sleeping body receives it without knowing what it is or where it comes from, the skin simply registering the photons the way skin registers everything, with the openness of a surface that is built to receive the world and does so continuously and without judgment, warmth and light and texture and pressure, and the barely there brush of a flower petal and the almost nothing weight of starlight, all received with equal impartiality, all registered and filed in the body's continuous account of its own experience, the account that will be settled at the end of the night when you wake and find yourself restored, the whole night's work of reception and rest having produced its result. You renewed, ready, the morning's person rather than the evening's, having crossed from one to the other through the long and generous dark. But the morning is not here yet. The starlight is still here. The lavender is still here. And you are still sleeping deeply and completely in the warm and fragrant center of the night. Your dreaming in these later hours is simple and beautiful, not elaborate, not populated with characters or narratives or the complex dramas that dreams sometimes generate from the material of the day. Just images, clean and complete, arriving one at a time in the easy space of the sleeping mind and held there briefly, glowing with their own quality of presence, and then released, and then the next one coming. The stone path with time in its cracks, each crack a small world of green. The olive tree, its silver leaves flickering, the afternoon light making them look like small flames. The farmhouse window, amber, warm, steady. The view from the small hill at sunset, the entire valley spread below, the lavender fields breathing in the long golden light. The chapel door open to the evening, the enormous lavender plant on either side, the stone floor just visible within, cool and old and worn smooth. The first firefly rising from the lavender row, a small astonishment of light in the gathering dusk. The moon clearing the eastern hills, flooding the hollow with silver. One by one these images arrive and are held and released, the dream running through the evening's gifts the way a hand runs through water, touching each thing briefly, feeling its quality, moving on, the whole sequence adding up to something that is not exactly memory and not exactly imagination, but a third thing. The dream's version of the evening, which is more purely itself than the evening was while you were living it. Because in the dream nothing is competing for your attention, nothing is asking anything of you. You are simply here and the images are simply here and the warmth is everywhere and the lavender scent is everywhere and the quiet is profound. And the rest is real and you are safe and you are held and you are, in the most complete sense of the word, at home in the night. At home in the night. This is what sleep does at its best on the nights when everything has aligned to make it possible. It brings you home. Not to any particular house or room or place, but to the home that exists inside the rest itself. The home that is the warmth and the dark and the scent of something good and the sound of the world going about its quiet business around you. The home that has nothing to do with walls or doors or addresses and everything to do with this. The feeling of being exactly where you're supposed to be, of being held by something larger and more patient than anything you could hold yourself. You are home, in the lavender, in the dark, in the warm and fragrant and generously silent night. The pre-dawn air comes to you softly, the way all the best things have come to you tonight, without announcement, without drama, simply arriving as a new quality of the air around you. A freshness that has entered the hollow from somewhere above, from the direction of the eastern ridge where the sky is doing something very slow and very early that cannot yet be called lightning, but is perhaps the absence of the deepest dark, a shade of dark that is fractionally paler than it was an hour ago. A change visible only to eyes that have been in this darkness long enough to know its gradations. Your skin feels the pre-dawn air. Even in sleep, the skin knows this particular freshness, this cooling of the air that belongs to the last hours before sunrise, when the earth has released all its stored heat into the night and the new heat of the coming day has not yet arrived. The temperature valley of the daily cycle, the coldest point, which in summer is not cold but simply fresh, simply the air at its cleanest and most purely itself, before the day's warmth complicates it with all the smells and textures of the active world. Your body responds as it always responds to the pre-dawn air, by generating a little more warmth of its own, a small internal adjustment, the metabolic equivalent of pulling a blanket closer. The adjustment is so small and so automatic that it does not disturb your sleep, does not lift you toward waking, only settles you more firmly into the warm center of your own resting body, the warmth you carry with you everywhere, the warmth that is yours alone. That the earth and the lavender have been complementing all night with their own warmth, a conversation of temperatures that has kept you perfectly, exactly comfortable through every hour of the dark. The lavender in the pre-dawn air is extraordinary. The coolness releases the scent differently from the warmth. The warmth of the afternoon and the evening lifted the volatile molecules up and out and spread them wide, filling the valley with a diffuse and pervasive fragrance. The cool of the pre-dawn air draws the scent down, concentrates it close to the ground, close to the source, so that in the hollow the lavender scent is not widespread but dense, a thick and living fragrance at the very level where you are resting, pressed close by the cool air into the space where you breathe, delivered directly and with great generosity to your sleeping nose. You breathe it in, deeply. Your lungs fill completely. Your sleeping body is grateful, the way the sleeping body expresses gratitude, by resting more fully, by releasing any remaining fraction of held tension, by sinking just that last millimeter more completely into the earth that has been holding you all night and will hold you still until the morning calls you gently back to itself. The first bird. It comes from the woodland on the far hillside, that same first bird that always begins before the others, the one whose internal timing is set just a fraction earlier than the rest of its kind, whose song is the signal that the night has reached its furthest point and the long return has begun. A single clear note, then another. A phrase, tentative and brief, sent out into the pre-dawn dark as though to test whether the night is ready to receive it. The night receives it. The crickets continue. The bird sings again, slightly more confident, the phrase a little longer, and in the pause that follows you can feel the valley holding something, the way a held breath holds something, the moment between the last of one thing and the first of another, the hinge between night and morning, the place where the dark is still fully dark but knows, from whatever knowing the dark has, that it is about to begin its long, slow surrender to the light. In your sleep, the bird's song enters the dream. It becomes in the dream the sound you have been carrying all evening, the sound of this valley announcing itself, the sound of life in the warm and lavender-scented air, continuous and reliable, the world going about its ancient business of birdsong and crickets and the turning of the sky, the world doing what it has always done, what it will continue to do, what you can rely on absolutely and completely, the world being the world in its most essential and most beautiful form. You receive the bird's song in your sleep. Your sleeping body receives it as morning coming, time changing, the night completing itself, all the processes and purposes of the dark hours having been accomplished, the work done, the rest given, the restoration complete. You are restored. You may not know this yet, you are still deeply asleep, still breathing the lavender, still held by the earth in the dark, but the restoration has happened. Through all the hours of the night, quietly and without your involvement, the body has done what it does in the dark, the cells repaired, the chemicals rebalanced, the memories sorted and stored, the emotions processed and released, the whole elaborate and invisible work of the sleeping self having proceeded to its completion. You have been tended to by the night. You have been given back to yourself. The sky above the hollow is changing. Very slowly, imperceptibly almost, but changing, the deep blue-black of the middle night giving way at the eastern horizon to something that is almost still black but is not quite, a depth of dark that has a warmth at its lowest edge, a band of darkness that is slightly less dark than the darkness above it, the absolute first breath of the day. The stars at the horizon are beginning to dim. Not the ones overhead, not yet, those are still brilliant and numerous. The full glory of the clear summer sky still spread across the zenith in the western half of the sky. But the stars near the eastern horizon are beginning to be competed with, beginning to contend with the first intimation of light that is rising behind the hills, not yet visible as light, not yet something you could point to and call light, but present as the absence of the very deepest dark, as a shifting of the gradations of the night. The lavender in the hollow feels this. You would not know this is true, you cannot measure it or prove it, but there is something in the air above the lavender that changes with the first approach of dawn, some metabolic or chemical signal that the plants respond to even before the light itself arrives, some preparation for the day. Beginning at the cellular level hours before the sun clears the horizon, the plant's own equivalent of the sleeping body's pre-dawn preparations, the awakening that precedes awakening. The scent of the lavender shifts almost imperceptibly. It is the same lavender, the same plants, the same hollow, and the scent is recognizably the same scent. But something in it is different. Some top note has arrived that was not there in the deep of the night, a freshness added to the familiar richness, a brightness that belongs to the morning's version of this smell rather than the night's, the lavender beginning its daytime offering before the day has technically begun. You breathe it in, still asleep, still deeply, restfully, completely asleep. But breathing the dawn lavender now, the morning's first gift delivered to you while you are still in the dark, still in the warmth, still held by the earth and the night, the transition already beginning though you are not yet part of it. The bird in the woodland is joined by another. Not the same species, a different voice, slightly lower, slightly less tentative, adding a second thread to the pre-dawn weaving, and then a third voice from somewhere closer, from the thicket at the valley's edge where you walked earlier this evening. And the three of them together make something that is beginning to be what the morning will make fully in another hour, which is the full chorus, the sound of a summer morning in the countryside, the most ancient and most reliable of all the morning's offerings. The sound that has been greeting every dawn over this landscape, since there were birds in these trees and trees on these hills. But that is still to come. For now it is three birds and the crickets, the night and the almost not night anymore, and you are still sleeping in the hollow, still warm, still breathing lavender, still held. The stars are still there. Above you, directly above, the star you looked at earlier in the night, the one that was so steadily there, so patiently there, is still there, burning its cold white fire into the slowly brightening pre-dawn sky, still brilliant, though the sky around it has warmed very slightly, the eastern glow spreading upward along the dome now, touching even the zenith with its earliest suggestion, a warmth that is not yet visible as color but is present as a quality of the dark, making it slightly softer. Slightly less absolute. The night is releasing you. Slowly and without urgency, the way this entire night has done everything. Without urgency, with the patience of a thing that does not need to rush, that trusts the process, that knows the morning will come in its own time, and that the time before it is valuable and not to be hurried through. You are still here. The lavender is still around you. The earth is still warm beneath you. And the birds are beginning, very softly, very gently, to call you back. Your sleep in these final hours before dawn is the lightest it has been. The depth of the night's rest is behind you, the deep and wordless center already traveled and returned from, the body's restoration already complete. What remains is the softer sleep of the early morning, the sleep that has images in it, warm and simple images, the mind beginning to think again but slowly, beginning to compose itself into the shape that will be the morning self, the person who will open their eyes to the lavender hollow and the dawn sky. In this lighter sleep you dream of warmth. Specifically the warmth of the first morning light on your face, which has not arrived yet but which the body is already anticipating, already preparing for, the skin of your face oriented upward as though offering itself to the sun that is still below the horizon, still behind the eastern hills, still minutes away. The dream warmth is very specific. It has the quality of sunlight, that particular combination of warmth and light that is completely different from any other source of warmth. The warmth that carries with it its own luminosity, so that to feel it is also to see red through closed eyelids, the blood of the eyelid lit from outside, a warm red that shifts toward orange as the sun brightens, the morning announcing itself through the eyelids before the eyes open, before the mind decides to open them. The sun reaching you while you are still technically asleep and saying very gently in the language of warmth and light on skin, here's the morning, here's the new day. Here's the light that has been traveling toward you all night from the other side of the world, and it is here now, and it is warm, and the lavender is here, and the valley is here, and the whole long beautiful day is ahead. But not yet, not quite yet. The dream warmth of the not yet sun fills your sleeping face, and you breathe in, and the lavender is in the breath, and the breath is warm, and the warmth is everywhere, inside and outside and above and below, the whole hollow full of the warmth of a summer night completing itself, giving everything it has in these last minutes, the final generosity of the dark before the light. Rest. There is still time. The sun is still behind the hills. The lavender is still around you. The earth is still holding you, as it has held you all night, without complaint, without condition, accepting your weight and your warmth with the patience of something that has been accepting the weight and warmth of living things since the beginning of living things, since the first summer night, the first hollow, the first person who lay down on warm ground under the stars and breathed the air of the sleeping world and was held and was safe and was given back to the morning restored and whole. You are being given back now. The process is already underway, has been underway since the first bird, since the first shift in the quality of the dark, since the lavender's scent changed to its morning version, since the pre-dawn air came into the hollow and your skin registered it, and your body adjusted and began, very slowly, its return from the night. But you are still here, still in the hollow, still in the lavender, still breathing the morning version of the scent that has been with you all night, the clean and fresh and slightly bright lavender of the dawn, the lavender that knows the sun is coming and is already opening to it, already beginning its daytime offering, already turning the face of each tiny floret toward the light that is still only aglow behind the hills, but is absolutely, certainly, beautifully coming. The birds are more numerous now, 5, 6 voices in the pre-dawn air, each one distinct, each one adding its particular phrase to the growing complexity of the morning's beginning, and the crickets beneath them are still singing, the night's song and the morning's song briefly sharing the air, briefly coexisting in the same warm space between the last dark and the first light. Your breath rises and falls. Your heartbeat keeps its pace. The lavender surrounds you. The earth holds you. And the sky above the hollow directly above is doing something extraordinary. It is becoming. Not yet dawn, not yet morning, but no longer fully night, the deep and fixed dark of the middle hours giving way to something dynamic, something in motion, something that is moment by moment. Becoming more itself, the sky discovering the colors it will wear for the morning the way a day discovers its character, gradually and with full commitment, the first pale gray along the eastern ridge warming almost imperceptibly towards something that might, if you're patient, if you wait, if you breathe and stay and let the morning come at its own pace, become rose. You breathe, the lavender, the warm earth, the bird song growing, the dark softening, the morning coming slowly and certainly and beautifully, the way everything has come in this valley on this evening, and this night without hurry, with full attention to every step of the process, with the ceremonial patience of a world that understands that the most beautiful things are the ones that take their time. You are here. You are warm. You are rested, deeply and completely rested, the night's full gift received and held in the body that has been sleeping in the lavender hollow under the summer stars. You are here. The lavender is here. The morning is coming. And everything is exactly as it should be. Rest, breathe. The lavender breathes with you. In and out, in and out. The birds are singing. The dawn is coming, and you are home.